Today, we're going to talk about a couple of things. First of all, we found these little bunnies in our backyard. There's a nest back there, and I guess Mama Bunny dug them in and covered them up with some stuff. And so there's some little bunnies, and Robert was walking by that nest today, and two of the bunnies, I guess, freaked out because he was coming close and just jumped out of the nest. That's his story anyway, although I also know that he really, really wants to reach down and pick them up, and I'm praying that's not what happened. But anyhow, whatever it is, he has a heart for these bunnies, and they're really cute, so we wanted to share those with you. Speaking of cute little ones, I also wanted to talk to you today about why kids come into care. Why do children end up in foster care? What are the things that lead them to be taken away from their homes? So, let's go, Dad.
1, 2, 3.
Let's go. All right, today for Memorial Day, we went on a drive. I don't know why. So I don't like really crowded places, but by the time we got out, because of bunnies and other things, by the time we got out and about, it was already kind of late in the afternoon. And I'm not a huge fan of going to crowded places, and all the cool places to go on holiday weekends tend to be really crowded. So we decided to go on a drive, go explore a town we haven't explored before, which we did, and that was really cool. And it wasn't super crowded, which was super nice. Like, we went around and explored this town kind of near, or not too far from us. Went through their downtown area, which was beautiful, gorgeous, and enjoyed walking around through there. And then we went out to eat together. We drove around and explored a new city, and now we're sitting here eating. Actually had a big boy diner, which is kind of cool because that's where Grandpa used to be a manager. Not at this one, but at one, right? So that's kind of fun. Does this compare to yours, Dad? No. Not quite, of course.
Yeah,
There's a smaller, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
Oh, really?
This is big for a big boy.
The biggest one I was in was a lot smaller,
Yeah.
and it's 50 years later, too.
Well, I'm sure they're a little different. So, Robert, what are you going to do this summer to keep yourself entertained? Legos. You're going. I know you're going to hang out with your friend Jacob some.
and other friends, hopefully. Legos, hang out with friends.
And yeah.
Bike ride, walks, go with Grandma and Grandpa and play video games.
Grandma and Grandpa are going to take you to the library, I think, tomorrow, right?
Oh, so that's today.
No. And then a bunch of museums, a bunch of cool places.
Oh, you guys have to take me to that drum museum.
I'm not doing anything. Why are you sleeping on our table? And then we went for a walk. I know some of you are like, is that all you ever do, go for walks? But we really enjoyed going for a walk. We love doing that together. It's kind of a family thing, either riding our bikes or going for walks. And when I'm on a bike, I often forget to take out the phone or the camera. So that's the footage you get is often our walk. Sorry if that gets annoying, but we love doing that. We love doing it together. I guess we're kind of simple that way. All right, why do foster kids come into care? First off, let me say that every kid who's come into care and then come into our home has come in for different reasons. I mean, pretty much. I'm trying to think. Yeah, pretty close. Really pretty close. Now, as a side note, let me say that some of the kids had some of the same types of abuse that happened to them, but that wasn't the alarm that went off, the call that went in, the trigger that got them pulled out of their homes and put into foster care. Later, they ended up telling people about the abuse, the counselor or someone. So that was a different, I mean, that was definitely there, and I'm sure that impacted their behaviors and other things that drew attention to them. But really what happened first was something else, right? So they may have been abused in a way that kids in our foster family had been abused, but yeah, not necessarily the reason why they came in. I also feel it's important to mention, and I've said this a lot, so probably I don't have to say it again, but there's this whole thing called confidentiality. And so I can't tell you anything specific about a certain kid. As far as confidentiality is concerned, I'm not going to be able to tell you any details that would identify a specific child. If that's helpful to you in understanding why I don't share more. And I know I've said that before, and some of you still in comments are like, yes, but tell us more. I'm like, no, I can't. Sorry. I can't. If I want to keep doing foster care, I can't violate confidentiality. And guess what? I do. I really do want to keep doing foster care because I think it's a great way to change the world and end the cycle of abuse, neglect, and poverty. I think it's a great way to do that. We'll start with this for our first reason as why many kids come into foster care, and that is really bad living conditions. A neighbor often complains about smells from an apartment or a house, or people notice that the kids are filthy all the time, and then intake worker comes out to do investigations, or whoever goes out to do investigations, they see that the home is just filthy. There might be animal droppings, animal feces on the ground. There might just be rotting food everywhere. I mean, just absolutely filthy. Some of these homes are really, really bad. Their houses are filthy, and we've run into a couple situations or heard of a couple situations where families were never willing to clean up their homes, and so the kids never went back to them. It sounds strange for a lot of us who are living in different situations, But there might be other things going on, a lot of stresses, a lot of things that are impacting that we shouldn't be too judgmental about. But those families, for whatever reason, don't or aren't able to clean up their living situation, and so the kids are never able to come back. That happens. That actually was really surprising to me that happens, but it does. That does happen. This is another one that I guess in my very sheltered life I wasn't prepared for, and that's truancy. Kids not showing up for school. A lot of kids come into foster care because they don't show up for school. And so they're placed into a foster family to get them back on track, get them into school. People try to work with their families to get them motivated, to get them trained in how to get a child to go to school when they don't want to go to school. All of these things, they try and work with these families. And if that doesn't happen, often these kids are in care for a long time. Hopefully, this is something that's easily fixed, right? There isn't necessarily an addiction involved, although sometimes, again, like I mentioned before, sometimes there are underlying things that get discovered later that weren't discovered right away, right? That's not the reason they came into care, but it does have an impact on whether they can go back and live safely with that family. So that's another reason kids come to care, is because of truancy. Basically, they're not showing up for school. That happens a lot. From what I've heard and seen, I hear that's a big one. Although honestly, I think most of these are big ones. One you've probably all been expecting is drugs. And drugs is huge. There was a documentary at one point about the Oregon foster care system, and like 80% of the kids were in care at that time because of drugs. 80%. That's huge. I don't know what the numbers are here right now, but I would still imagine it's pretty huge everywhere. Like that's a huge reason kids come into care. And the terrible thing is, drugs are hard to shake. And a lot of parents can stay clean for 6 months to get their kids back, and then they fall apart again. And that's really terrible for the kids, because those kids tend to bounce back and forth into the system a lot. And each time they move, they get a little more messed up. It's really hard to see. It's heartbreaking. What is so shocking to me, maybe I just didn't think about this much before I became a foster parent, but those parents love their kids. Like they really care about, love their kids. They promise them the world. And when they say it, they mean it. They really mean it, because they love and care for those kids so much. But then of course, because of their addiction and the nature of their addiction, they fall off the horse again, or so they say. You know, they have to get another fix, or they feel like they have to get another fix. It's such a strong pull that they do. And that's really hard. That's really hard. And it's hard as a foster parent to see kids going back and forth like this. And it's really hard for kids to be made promises that are broken by their parents, to try to live with their parents again and again, and it's just not working out. Getting put in really tough situations because of that. It's really hard on kids. Okay, so a lot of the things we've talked about before can really come under the category of neglect. So kids aren't having their needs met, whether it's a safe place to live or whatever, right? It falls under the category of neglect. This, however, does not. A lot of kids come into care because of abuse. And this can be physical or sexual abuse or even emotional abuse, but abuse one way or another. This is a huge thing. We've seen this several times. Although actually out of the 10 foster kids we've had, I think really only 2 of them were because of abuse. And I'm wondering if that's unusual, because to me that seems strange, but it could be that that's very unusual. And if you're gonna be a foster parent, all of these are really hard, but seeing a kid come into your home and just seeing them broken and battered and bruised is heart-wrenching. Like that is so hard. It really is. That is so hard. And I wanna say too, for sexual abuse, you don't see those things, but most of the folks I talk to who've done foster care for a while will say this: there's something deeper about that form of abuse. Like there's a shadow on those kids, and it's really hard to shake, and it's really hard for them to heal from that and recover. Physical abuse definitely leaves emotional scars, but there's something about sexual abuse that really just digs those scars deep, and it's really hard for them to recover from that. Years and years of counseling and really hard work and being vulnerable and sharing in ways that no kid should have to share, and being open and willing to that, and having people speak truth into their lives over and over again, and sharing their story over and over again. It's a terrible road to recovery for that. It really is. And like I said, a lot of kids come into care for other reasons, and then we find that they've been physically abused or sexually abused, or that their parents are using drugs, all of those different types of things. This may tie in with others, but there's been like little kids wandering around, like out at night, 2 o'clock in the morning. That's neglect for sure. Often those kids come into care. I will say that with one child I know, it was like 6 or 7 times that happened, and they still didn't take the child into care. I don't know why. I really don't. Well, folks, there's lots of reasons kids come into foster care. Hopefully no one you care about will ever have to come into foster care. And if there's kids in your care as a foster family, hopefully those kids don't have to bounce back and forth a whole bunch. They either go home, they're reunified, and they stay there, or they stay in your placement and be adopted, or whatever it is. But bouncing back and forth is terrible for kids. I hope that doesn't happen. That's one thing that we as a society really need to work on. We really need to work on the fact that kids are boomeranging back and forth, because it's destroying them. And it destroys them down to the heart. Like it makes them really cold and hard individuals. And it is a problem. It is a big, big problem. Thank you all for taking the time to learn about foster kids, to open your hearts to foster kids, to pray for foster kids, to support foster kids in whatever way you can. And let's go, Dad.